You always hear about these strange, kind of mythical laws that are somehow still on the books. Well, today, we're going to dig up some of America's absolute weirdest ones. Some are just bizarre, and honestly, some are just hilarious. All right, so let me start by asking you this. Could you actually go to jail for carrying an ice cream cone in your pocket? I know, it sounds like a total joke, right? But believe it or not, in one state, this was something people had to take seriously.
Okay, so this first law, on the surface, it sounds completely absurd. But, like a lot of these weird regulations, there's actually a pretty fascinating story hiding just beneath the surface.
Yep, you heard that right. In Alabama, it was actually illegal to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket. Just try to imagine explaining that one to a cop. So, why on earth would a law like this even exist in the first place?
Well, get this. It had absolutely nothing to do with ruining your pants or making a mess. It was actually a really clever way to stop horse thieves. So the story goes, criminals would literally put ice cream in their pockets to lure horses away from their owners. So at its heart, this bizarre-sounding law was really a surprisingly smart anti-theft measure.
And it's not just about horse theft either. It turns out animals are at the center of a whole bunch of really strange laws. And while these next few are probably going to make you laugh, they often come from a place of, well, genuine concern. Okay, let's look at a few of these. In Alaska, it is illegal to wake a sleeping bear just to get a photo. In Oklahoma, you could get in trouble for making ugly faces at a dog. And get this, in Delaware, selling dog hair is a total no-go. So what on earth could possibly connect all of these? Believe it or not, they all have some pretty serious reasons behind them. The bear law, that's obviously about public safety and, protecting wildlife. The rule against making faces at a dog is about preventing animal cruelty. And that ban on selling dog hair, that was actually designed to stop fraud and for hygiene reasons. So what sounds completely silly is often pretty sensible when you dig into it. All right, so we've got animal protection covered, but what about protecting, well, public decency or just plain old order? Next up, we've got a few laws that were basically designed to make sure people mind their manners. And this next batch is just great. We're talking about things like no fake mustaches in church, the high crime of singing off key, and the very, very specific offense of sleeping in a cheese factory. So we're heading back to Alabama for this one. Apparently, you could get in some serious trouble for wearing a fake mustache in church. But here's the kicker, only if it made people laugh. The whole idea was to stop people from disrupting a serious service. Still, you gotta admit, that is one of the most specific laws you'll probably ever hear. And it just goes to show how far some states would go to, legislate good behavior. Over in North Carolina, singing off-key was technically against the law, probably to keep the public peace. And then in Wisconsin, of course the cheese state, it was illegal to sleep in a cheese factory. I mean, that one actually makes a lot of sense, right? It's all about hygiene. But not every weird law has some hidden logical reason behind it. Some of them are just leftovers. They're like historical relics from a totally different time that were just forgotten and never got taken off the books. Take, for example, this absolute gem from Vermont. At one point, it was illegal to whistle underwater. Just let that sink in for a second. I mean, how would you even enforce a law like that? And more importantly, how would you even break it? And I guess that's the whole point, right? It's a law that is pretty much impossible to break. And yet, there it was, just sitting in the law books. It's the perfect example of legal clutter that just kind of hangs around forever. But for the absolute ultimate law of the obvious, we have to look at California. There's an actual city ordinance on the books there that makes it illegal to detonate a nuclear bomb inside the city limits. I mean, you'd kind of think that goes without saying, wouldn't you? Yeah, obviously. I think we can all agree that setting off a nuke anywhere is probably a bad idea. But hey, it's nice to know the city has it officially covered. Just in case. So after all of that, the silly, the strange, and even the surprisingly sensible stuff, you kind of have to ask, what's the deal? Why do these totally bizarre laws even exist in the first place? Well, it usually boils down to a few key reasons. A lot of them were created to solve problems that just aren't problems anymore, like, people luring horses away with ice cream. Others were just knee-jerk reactions to a single weird event that happened once. But honestly, most of the time, they're still around simply because nobody ever got around to getting rid of them. They're just forgotten layers of history.
So in the end, whether they're technically still active or just historical relics, these strange laws give us this weird and often really funny window into the past. You get to see what people cared about, what they were afraid of, and the unique problems they were trying to solve.
So now, I have to ask you, which law did you find the weirdest? Was it the whistling underwater, the fake mustaches in church, or maybe the whole ice cream horse heist? Let us know down below which one you thought was the absolute strangest. Thanks so much for tuning in.